I'm just doing my little video update. Hey, anyone who joined, we're just waiting for to share the video, the live stream link on a bunch of social channels, and we will get started shortly. We're going to get started after we share the link on all of our social channels, and then we see if anyone else wants to join us. Hey, Leo, thank you. Yeah, I feel like video updates are definitely a big part of communicating in this process. I am just waiting for Christine to let the tweets fly. It's done. wait till 2:45? Oh, we're up to 4 people. Christine, if we hit 10, I'm going to get started. Ooh, 5 people. We're either going to start at 2:45. We're going to start at 2:45. My time, so about 4 minutes. We're starting in 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to get started now. We also hit 10 people watching. So thank you guys for joining us. I'm just going to do sort of a quick rundown on where we are with Game of Stakes, what's happened so far, what we've learned, how we're going to position ourselves to get to do better in the next new year. As I mentioned yesterday, if today's launch wasn't successful, we're going to go on hiatus for Game of Stakes till the beginning of next year. I'm probably looking at doing the next Game of Stakes launch, something on the order of January 4th UTC, specific time. There'll probably be a Genesis file soon. I don't think that the Genesis file that we were using for Game of Stakes 2 requires really any modification at this point. So let's sort of break down a little bit of like where we are, what we've learned. So Game of Stakes today, the startup process failed when one of our validators double signed, and when the state machine went to slash them, there was no what we call a slashing period in the sort of state for that validator because of the way in which we exported and imported state from the validator. So let's kind of like break down a little bit about how this is working, where we are, what the state of QA is. There's actually quite a bit to unpack here. So the sort of core there's a couple of things we're doing. So the macro thing that we're doing is, so right now, Tendermint, the consensus engine, when you restart it, starts from a height of 0. And there are many things in the state machine that are based on height, fee distribution, evidence age. There's a variety of other, so the height of the blockchain is sort of part of the core logic of the SDK. And right now, Tendermint doesn't let us say, start this blockchain, but start it at a height of where block 0 or block 1 is height, 10,000. So because we can't do that, we sort of came up with this solution to allow us to upgrade blockchains while preserving state, which is called which is essentially a flag on exporting state called for height 0. This is something of a hack, but the core. So this is something of a hack, and we've been trying to use this hack to restart the Game of Stakes blockchain. And this has been also our sort of expected strategy for upgrading the chain on mainnet. We have a built-in QA process that tries to simulate building up a blockchain, exporting it for 0 height, and then importing it and starting the chain again, and then simulating some more activity on that chain. So it was pretty, frankly, disappointing today to see that QA process did not catch the flaw in this import-export cycle that caused the slashing periods not to be created properly. The good news is all of these flaws that we've been finding are trivial, and fixes are relatively trivial. The bad news is we don't really know why yet why our QA process didn't catch this problem, and we're somewhat and that's somewhat dispiriting and disappointing. The other thing is, if we were doing simple centralized test nets, iterating and just fixing these kinds of bugs would not be a big deal. But we are all trying to get to running this as a mature distributed system with truly distributed sort of DevOps, and iterating iterating on the sort of iterating through these trivial fixes is just not sustainable when you have 200 validators trying to work together to start a blockchain. So I think what like sort of the lessons that I'm taking and that we're taking for this break is I think everybody on the team is going to think real hard about what we're doing on from a QA perspective, what can be done to improve this system in terms of trying to identify flaws that can be or like what we can do better from a QA point of view. And I think that'll all be put in place when we all sort of start getting back to it in January. But I don't. It's just like punishing for everyone to try to iterate through this process of sort of exports and imports and finding flaws when we don't really know yet why the existing QA process didn't catch this. So that's kind of where we're at. I would say we have there are two things that got us much closer to launch from this experience over the last week. The big thing that we got done is we showed that the GenTX process works at scale. We also showed that starting a blockchain with more than 100 validators from block one works at scale. Having these two pieces of knowledge is an incredible amount of validation for the software, and it's incredibly frustrating when the software was able to perform for us in such on such heroically challenging tasks that it wasn't able to deliver for us in terms of just state machine stability, which is unfortunate. So I do think we're gonna we are going to figure out a way to get past this. It's going to be the fix for the problem that we ran into this morning is extremely trivial, and we're going to be able we'll fix that. In all likelihood, I'm expecting essentially to run Game of Stakes 3 with really the only changes to the Genesis file is the chain ID will be changed and the chain ID will be changed and the start time. I'll probably upload a start time for sometime on January 4th, pretty shortly. There'll probably be a new version of the SDK that will have a hotfix release for this for the export input slashing period problem, and then we'll be off to the races. I mean, yeah, it's been a little bit frustrating, to be honest. I'm really excited to get Game of Stakes up and running. I'm excited to get us to 2 weeks of stability, and I'm excited to get us to launch. But nevertheless, I'll be spending the holiday season mostly relaxing, but writing some of the last pieces of code that we need in order to launch the network in terms of infrastructure. And hopefully everybody will get a break, and we'll come back in the new year with some strong new ideas about catching these kinds of errors that emerge from complex interactions with the state machine in a sort of better way. The sort of fuzz testing we do in the simulator has caught a lot of bugs for us, but clearly not everything, as we've definitely faced some bugs that we thought we would catch in the simulator. So that's sort of an update on where we are in Game of Stakes, and let's see what else. No, those are the core pieces. Does anyone have any questions? I think I answered the question about Game of Stakes. Postponed to sometime. So yes, Orel. So we are going to start mainnet obviously at block 1. But if mainnet halts, and when we want to do upgrades, it would be really nice to be able to have Tendermint start at a non-zero block height for future chains. It definitely opens up some exciting new possibilities. It definitely opened up some exciting new possibilities when it comes to how you do automated upgrades, etc., on mainnet. So I think it's just going to be a great feature. I've talked to the Tendermint team about that idea, and I think there's a reasonably high likelihood that that'll happen. I also think one of the things that if I can get once I get through kind of the bare minimum stuff needed that I'm trying to get through this week. With no meetings for launch, writing the code for doing the the modifications to proposer selection is also kind of on my to-do list. So that's, but a big part of getting this sort of testing piece right is, this would be not that, we could iterate our way through this and we could brute force our way through this as a community to get to the hub launch. I'm very confident in that. The number of errors is not that large. We've definitely not been seeing errors in anything complicated or fundamental. But what our goal of this system is not just to launch the hub, but to make it easy for anyone to launch a blockchain. And I'll answer that question about the height of in GOS3. What I was saying was, none of these bugs have been really complicated, but the whole point of the system is it should be a system that allows developers to build reliable blockchain systems that are strongly consistent and highly effective. Because if it's this hard for us who work with the SDK every day, it's also going to be hard on all of the dev teams that are building on top of the SDK. We're definitely seeing that in our partnership channels. Okay, so there was a bunch of questions about the token. Probably answered those in another context or directly in the Telegram. It's a future date. The height of the blockchain is going to be for Game of Stakes 3 is just going to be the same Genesis data as it was for Genesis 2, Game of Stakes 2, with just a new chain ID. Yep. So that is the state of things. More questions? Ideally, not about the token. It's not that I'm opposed to answering them. I just think there's probably another venue that's better. Cool. All right. Thank you guys for sticking with me. Thank you all for participating in this experiment. It was, about no one really knew if Tendermint would work at 200 validators, and it has worked extremely well. And I'm jazzed about getting the blockchain started again and going for 300. So this is going, but yeah, absolutely. Happy holidays. Thank you, Tendermint community and Cosmos community. Thank you, validators. Thank you for this whole year. We've definitely made computer science history, and we are psyched to do the next thing. Bye, guys.